The big season 4 campfire. Finally, let's go.
All right, it's finally time. We can finally do a recap of the campfire and the patch notes because we just read the patch notes as well. So no filler, let's just get right on into it. I'm not going to go over anything that was already covered that we already knew about in the old patch notes or that we already knew going into the PTR. I'm only going to cover new things that we learned.
Okay.
So for tempering, they added a skip button, thank God, because seeing the animation all the time was unbelievable. And now they're going to show us a new screen that shows what you got and the actual ranges of the values, which is a huge win because you were just going in blind all the time.
That's nice.
For masterworking, they removed the animations except for the crits, so you had to upgrade an item 12 times. Now it's only going to play the little animation on 4, 8, and 12, I believe, if I'm understanding what they presented.
Yeah, good.
And then one thing about masterworking is that's like the final step of an item. It's like how you make the final ultimate item of your build. And so you have the ability to reset the masterworking and spend all of the mats again to level it up. So when you're leveling it up, if you don't get what you want, you reset it. So when you start leveling it up again, you need the lower materials. And the way that they have you convert the high materials to the low materials is you literally need hundreds and hundreds of clicks. So
yeah, that sounds like something that Blizzard would be very, very happy of doing and making people do. That's nice.
They put in a new system where you can scale down easier by buying like bigger bags of the materials, but they said they have a better solution coming in like season 5.
How about something called automatic conversion? I know it's a crazy idea, never has been implemented in the history of the universe, but how about something like that? Automatic conversion. Sounds crazy, I know, but hear me out.
This is the best they could do for season 4, which is fine. They removed the fail chance. Now, there's a recurring theme that you're going to see in these patch notes from the changes that they made. Essentially, everything in the game except for the pit, which is, over level 100, the endgame system, has just gotten way easier.
Obviously, I predicted this is going to happen. Diablo 3 is very special in the sense that, and keep in mind, Diablo 3 is Diablo 4 at this moment. Diablo 4 has not a single unique thing about it. It's just a carbon copy of Diablo 3 at this point. Diablo 4 effectively doesn't exist any longer with Season 4. So, yeah, this is what they did in Diablo 3. Oh, this is too hard, takes too long? Well, we made it so that it now is meaningless and you get it for free. That's what happens here. So, having a chance to fail your upgrade obviously is not gonna mesh well with the absolute 100% tourist audience that Diablo 4 is going for. Remember the people that made Diablo successful as a franchise to begin with? Well, you're no longer necessary. You're trash that needs to be gone. Now it's all about the people who are going to play this game for 5 minutes and then leave. And so, well, if someone's going to play this for 5 minutes and leave, there is no early game, there is no mid game. There is only a late game with such an extreme degree of item and power acquisition that for anyone who has a brain, it's going to only take probably less than a day to make a perfect character. This is the point where we are at.
So masterworking is kind of the final level of your items. And removing the chance to fail, people said it was really bad. They had PTSD from honing on Lost Ark. I understand that, but now,
I don't. Honing in Lost Ark was fine.
Now you just walk right on up through the 12 levels, and I guess that's it. So, the casual players, the people that don't have a lot of time to play, Diablo 4. I guess, has never been a more accessible game. The leveling is going to be so unbelievably easy, 1 to 100. And
yes, thank you, Rex, for justifying everything I have said. again, if you didn't believe me when I said that, well, then here's Rax telling you the literal same exact thing. And again, my predictions are still there. And those predictions are, we're going to get a Harada cube, because the way that Blizzard is handling itemization currently is absolutely impossible. You cannot make a build, because currently you roughly have 4 or 5 ununique slots in every build ever, because of the absolutely horrid itemization and balancing of Diablo 4. Again, you're playing a Necromancer, you have -1 slot, because you're always 100% gonna use the Auto Corpse Explosion Ring. There is no build that doesn't really use that. And if you're using, by the way, well, if you're maybe actually playing a Summoner, maybe then you're actually going to use the other unique ring that makes things more damage or whatnot. So that's effectively what I call a -1 item slot. And there are, over time, there's going to be plenty of that stuff. Again, the Caged Heart rings are pretty much mandatory for most classes at this point. And there are other things that are pretty much 100% mandatory for a lot of classes at this point. So the only way that we can actually allow players to have, build an item diversity, because there are literally skills in this game that do not work without a legendary affix, because they're just bad without it. They're gonna add a Harada cube from Diablo 3, because there's not enough item slots at this point to actually make builds viable. Unless we're gonna go for, something that in Season 3 Sorceress has already got, the Meteor build. Yeah, Blizzard literally put a whole fucking build on a helmet. That's right, a literal build. Not an upgrade to a skill, but a whole build on one item. Effectively, that's already sets. And at this rate, sets are probably also going to come back to the game, because, again, that item already is a full set, but it takes up only 1 item slot, so have fun with that. And after that, I think there's going to be Infinity leveling up, aka an actual Infinity Paragon system. Because, well, if level 100 is the max, and it's supposed to be acquired super easy, now you have the ability to do some kind of dungeon. But that dungeon is going to be made infinity at some point, because what's the point of, having a dungeon that you can clear? So they're going to make it infinity. And when you have something that can be done infinity and scales infinity, well, people are going to get pissed, because at a certain point they're going to hit the wall and they cannot continue. And when that happens, they're going to add infinity power to your character, aka Paragon levels are going to go infinity. So set items are most likely going to come at some point, because it's like there's no point in not having them at this point, considering how bad Diablo 4 has gotten. Harada cube definitely coming very soon, before the set items most likely, or after. It doesn't matter which they introduce first, the one doesn't work without the other. And then they're going to add infinity power, aka Paragon level infinity. So it's going to be great. It is literally Diablo 3 all over again.
And with some of the changes that they made, getting the right items that you need and getting the right masterworking on them, they did say that they made some adjustments to how much they cost, but with the fail chance being gone, it should be pretty darn easy to get through everything. So that just screams, again, the same motif all the time. Where is the end game? We will have the pit, and they did make it a little bit harder, but other than that, Diablo has probably never been easier when we get to the end of these patch notes. So some of the overall changes, everyone understands that rare and magic items suck and they have no purpose. They said in the future.
Yep. By the way, this is exactly what happened in Diablo 3, if you're wondering. This exact thing happened. There's no point in having them. You're just going to pick them up for disenchanting and, getting a couple of materials, and that's it. There's no point in them, because this is what Blizzard do. There's a problem, and to fix the problem, they don't fix the system surrounding the problem. They make a whole new system that probably devalidates 1 or 2 other systems before it. And, well, the itemization for Season 4 is, if it's not a legendary item, it's not worth picking up because legendary items have more affixes than magic and rare items. So magic and rare items are just white items now. That's it. That's it. Before we had white items, blue items, and yellow items, and everyone wanted yellow items. The white ones were completely useless. Everyone complained about that now. And now, rare and magic items are the new white items. It really is just so tiresome, isn't it?
Or they do have a plan for it, and whatever they do implement, it's not going to make you sift through hundreds of yellows all the time. They're going to do something different, but for right now, you just pick them up and you just salvage them. You will notice in the end game that veiled crystals are very rare, so now they drop from legendaries, and then you get a multiplier when you're salvaging sacred and ancestral ones, so you can get like a 3x multiplier, and they also super dramatically lowered the imprinting cost. So it went from veiled crystals being a pretty rare thing that you were hunting to you'll probably have a super abundance of them now.
Again, I am literally never wrong about this. This is a repeat of Diablo 3 from start to finish. Have fun.
The greater affixes. So I think in my review video, the thing that I said was the most important change that they could make is making greater affixes very noticeable, because it essentially is our loot filter. That's what you're looking for in the end game. They put new indicators in there, and they did put an indicator in the inventory, and they said that they would be open to feedback. And in the Q&A, someone even asked, why didn't you just give them a different beam or something? And they said, well, they considered it, but they're open to feedback. My feedback would be the indicators work, and I don't like them. I would prefer just a different beam. And even the icon in the inventory, it almost kind of looks like the background of the item itself. I wish it was a different color, like yellow or something, so it was super obvious.
Yeah.
So I would say it's better than what they had, but if I was in the design team and that's what they showed me, I would say no.
This is stupid,
and I would just
yes.
do it completely differently again. I would just prefer a different beam, to be honest with you. Armor. Okay, so this is a pretty significant change. So when you got to level, so you need different armor values to get your 85% damage reduction based upon the monster level. So what does that mean in plain English? It essentially means that you needed to, if you were going to crawl all the way through the pit, you needed, I think, 16,300 armor is the value. Yeah, it's right here, 16,300, something like that.
That's a
now, lot. The armor that you need will cap at monster level 100. So the value that you need at monster level 100 is 9,200.
Okay, that
good. Is very, very low.
Yeah.
So what that means is the armor on your gear is going to almost completely solve armor for you. In fact, I think you can forego not only all the armor, I don't know if the gems still give you armor, but you might be able to forego every armor skull in your rings. And I don't think you need any of the armor powers. By the way, Juggernaut single-handedly solves armor. Juggernaut, I believe, at max power in at the max power in Ancestral, I think gives you 9,500 armor. But yeah, I don't even think you need any of that. You need probably one random roll of armor on your gear, and that's it. And I don't even think you don't even need to crit in it for masterworking at all to hit the cap for all monsters. So again,
when your player base is literally just casuals and that's your only hope because everyone with a brain has left, this is where the game's gonna go. This is how the game's gonna handle things. There is everything that is supposed to be maxed out is gonna be made achievable by literally people with unironic brain damage. That's how the game functions.
Recurring theme here. Diablo 4 is just way easier. You will level way faster. You can cap your armor very easily. This is the number, I can't remember, it's 9260 or 9230, 92 something, and that's it. That's it. You solve armor, you never think about it ever again. This is a insanely easy number to hit. They put some caps in the game. You can't get more than 75% CDR. Cool.
Okay, the CDR thing is also a thing that happened in Diablo 3. So this is what constantly happens to Diablo games. Since they cannot balance the monsters for reasonable cooldown usage, and effectively it works like this. Big cooldowns are useless because all the monsters are one-shottable, so what's the fucking point of using big cooldowns? Because they can never actually balance the monsters to be challenging or anything requiring a cooldown. The only thing that you can do for people to use skills with cooldowns and big cooldowns is effectively remove its cooldown. And this is what's happening here. This is what happened in Diablo 3. Remember, permanent Archon builds, permanent Demon Hunter, whatever, Vengeance builds, or whatever it's called, permanent Barbarian transformation builds, and whatnot. Again, they just remove cooldowns from things. This is what will happen always. This is how it works. You're going to be able to spam all your cooldown big ultimates without any reprehension or thinking, because otherwise they don't work. Because the way that stuff's made in this game, monsters are spaced out evenly. So there's never a point where you can actually think, oh, there's 50 monsters, I better use an ulti. Doesn't happen because the monsters are always the same amount. The bosses, they're just one-shottable, so why use the cooldowns on them anyway? So the only solution is to reduce all cooldowns to non-existence. That's it. Why even have cooldowns, honestly, at this point for skills? There is none.
Cooldown reduction on your gear. You can get more from other things. And the area size is capped at 100. It's just like a performance thing. Builds are getting too spammy and hitting 3 screens away. So that's fine. Balancing, they took down the number of dust devils. They took down the number of frozen orbs. They were super overperforming on the PTR. 4 to 5 got buffed. They made tempering changes. We don't know what they are. They even in the patch notes it didn't say, so we'll just have to see. They made a bunch of class changes. We'll cover them down below. One major one that they called out is people keep wanting to play companion druid, but druids don't have as good a control over their minions as necros do. So they have way more HP and they respawn faster. And then the rogue, the unique, the scoundrel's kiss, it now hits like in the same area, which will buff single targets. It's going to be easier to use. The hurricane was bugged. If you saw any of those videos hitting for 10 trillion damage, that's not going to happen anymore. But they did buff hurricane's base damage and fixed a lot of other bugs. Okay, so Helltide, they made a ton of changes to Helltide already.
Helltide is unironically, again, the still only good thing that they kind of have managed to do properly in Diablo 4, and that's it. That's it. The Helltide and the Whispering Tree, the only 2 good things about Diablo 4.
But in addition to it, they drop more cinders, which is going to make you level way faster. Another way to level a lot faster. I'm actually surprised.
But again, classic problems still persist, aka Helltides are going to be the only way that people level now. Have fun.
By this, because I was doing speed running, leveling, testing on the PTR, and with a shit build, again, I'm under leveled. With a shit build, I was getting like 10 chests in 1 Helltide. So, I mean, with even more cinder drops, and it made it seem like it was significant. You're just going to be chain opening chests all the time.
Yeah.
It's going to level you way faster because the chests give a lot of XP. More Baneful Hearts, this makes sense because the Helltide boss should not be rare. And the Blood Maiden, the boss, now is much better.
Nothing should be rare in Diablo 4. And nothing is rare at this point in Diablo 4. Uber uniques are not uber unique anymore. They're pretty common.
Loot. And you get more loot if you contribute to it. You only want to contribute 1, though. 2 or 3 doesn't give you more loot. So contribute 1 and then fight her, but it's not a rare material. And then the time to open the chest has been lowered. So Helltide is going to be, I mean, outrageously valuable all the time. The season 4, the TLDR of season 4 is it's exactly like the update that I posted yesterday. It's essentially nothing. You build reputation for the wolves. They give you 18 ranks of stuff to collect.
Wow.
And all the stuff is designed to help you level up. There's a mine cage, which makes Helltide go up 10 levels
Wow.
and
Yeah,
gives
we
you
know
even
this.
more cinder drops. So, I mean, again, you're just going to level way faster, not only from the gear, but even more cinder drops to open the chest, which pay you XP. These mine cages only works for one player. If you open it at a party, only your monster level goes up and they don't stack. If you plug another one, it's just going to reset the timer. And then they buff the XP in all 3 zones again to get to 100 even
Obviously.
faster. They made the pit more challenging. The rewards take longer to get. The health of the monsters went up because they were dying so fast that they don't even get to attack you. They don't even get to pose a challenge. They now drop obols, and the obol cap has been increased to 2.5.
So, Diablo 3 had the thing that you also got the currency that you can gamble for when you finish drifts. Now, obolts are literally the carbon copy of this. It's not gonna matter. It's like, oh, I'm maxed at this shit. Let me just mindlessly spam click at something. It's not. Previously, obolts were kind of okayish because, you wanted an item, you used obolts time to time to just, you farmed them enough over time, and then it was this rare treat that you got to roll for the item that you really wanted because it's a unique or something. And that is how you spent obolts. Now obolts are just gonna be this currency that you don't care about, and you just buy 25 items every 3 runs or something because that's how it works. Like, again, every single thing is just, there's no reward. Everything's just already a reward. I might as well just have a character editor always open.
1,000 from 1,000. But remember, the gambler got buffed. You'll say like, oh, obols suck. The gambler is very powerful. He now drops 925 gear, and the 925 gear can have greater affixes on it. So the obol vendor can drop the greatest things in the game, essentially. Wow. And you can target farm. You go get 2,500 cinders. You need this helmet. You can't find the right helmet with the right power, the right greater affixes. You need to hit the greater affix on your CDR and your helmet. Okay, well, you buy 5,000 helmets, and you're going to get it eventually. After the bosses die, they must have been watching my stream because I was crucifying Blizzard for this. The boss dies, and then after the boss is dead and you're picking up the loot, the boss kills you. Stupid. So they removed that. And then they tried to make group play a little bit less punishing. Now the person who opens the pit gets 100% of the loot and the other players get 50. They're trying to bridge how overpowered group play is from single player. Nightmare dungeons give you 25% more glyph XP, and they give you lots of pit keys as you go to the high nightmare dungeon.
Okay, so the thing is, this is something that I talked about. Season 3 was actually amazing, season of the Construct, because the Construct dungeons were the best dungeons that we ever had. Because keep in mind, obviously, we have seen the people who are designing the maps in this game, and they shouldn't exist. These people just should not exist. They should be removed from this planet, okay? That's the short and sweet of it. Obviously, they can't fix the dungeons because the dungeon design is just bad. Let me explain how bad we're talking about. All the dungeons are designed poorly, except for Season 3 vaults. They were accidentally designed pretty well. So, this is your average Nightmare dungeon. You go in here, this is the entrance, then you go from here, you get to this point, it's a slightly bigger area, and then it splits into like 6 fucking paths. Here, 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 and here. And you don't know which one to take. You don't know where the boss door is. You don't know what's the objective. You don't know anything about anything. And then you decide to go here. And guess what? It's a dead end with fucking nothing. And then you need to circle back around and do it again. And that's most Nightmare dungeons. So people don't want to do Nightmare dungeons because that's how poorly they are designed. So that's why the rifts are going to be the actual endgame. And they're probably going to glyph XP at some point also, because why not at this point, right? So no one wants to do nightmare dungeons. It's just that goddamn bad. But season 3 actually did something amazing. The trap dungeons, after they nerfed the traps to oblivion, which by the way again was what prediction that I said is going to happen, because traps are stupid. But turns out traps that don't do damage and don't even hinder you are actually really good still, because at least you're like, not mindlessly running in a straight line. So they make you deviate a little bit, right? Because you don't want to get hit. Pretty reasonable stuff. And the vaults were actually good design, so magically how. The vaults were just a straight curving line, typically, like a Path of Exile map, leveling map. And, well, they had open spaces. They had spaces that seemed like a different place to go, but they all always led down into the exact same place. You had smaller rooms, you had bigger rooms, but typically from the smaller rooms, the mobs came at you anyway. It was actually good design. And now since the vaults are gone, well, it's just bad fucking dungeons again. And no one likes that. No one wants to play nightmare dungeons. And this is why the Greater Rifts are going to completely take over dungeons. Because there's no point in goddamn dungeons anymore. That's just how it is.
Again, everything is easier except for the pit. It's always the same thing. The Uber bosses are now 3 times more expensive for 5 times the rewards. So if you're very powerful and good at killing them, you can get a lot of loot. Boss materials will drop randomly, so you aren't forced to do a specific task to gain them.
Yes, because people were complaining that farming boss materials is not fun. So, first living steel became completely irrelevant, and something that, previously was hard to get and now is the easiest to get. And now all boss material parts are just free. Again, this is how Blizzard does things. There is no such thing as a normal amount of work to put in to get a reward. Everything must be free.
Doing this specific task is still the best way to gain them, but if you don't want to do it and you got to do something else, you can do other things and get the materials. Uber Lilith gives you a resplendent spark the first time you kill her. The other Uber bosses also give you a resplendent spark, and also the season will give you a resplendent spark. I believe you need 4 of them, and then you can choose any Uber unique that you want. So if you
see, Uber uniques are no longer Uber rares because you get 1 free.
Do those 3 things. If you find any Uber unique, it's essentially whatever Uber unique you actually want.
Yeah, it's free. It's just a free Uber unique. It's not an Uber unique. It's just a free thing you get because reasons.
So the little bosses on the way up to the main bosses can now also drop Uber uniques at a lower chance.
Wow.
So that's going to be easier as well. Now in the season journey, they're doing what Diablo 3 did. I'll be honest with you. I think this is one of the, people will disagree with me, and that's fine. But I actually think that this is a bad thing for Diablo 3. I think it made the game worse. So Diablo 3 developers always said that
Diablo 3 developers are morons, and nothing they said ever mattered.
It kind of sucks that you get to level 70, and then you're like in Torment 1, Torment 2, putting your build together, and then bam, you complete Season 4 of your season journey, and now you're in T16. So all the difficulties between them, which were supposed to be stepping stones to getting to the endgame, are completely obsoleted every season for every character.
Yeah, that sucks. How about you just make it so that doesn't happen? Oh wait, that's probably not what they did now, did they?
Well, here we go again. In the season journey, now they're going to give you a bunch of legendaries for a specific build that they're going to choose for every season. So barbs are just going to get done.
I told you it's Diablo 3. I literally told you it's Diablo 3. It's such a disappointment.
Devils, druids get pulverized, necros get minions. sorcerers are getting incinerate. Why didn't they give us frozen orb? This was the frozen orb season, and rogues are going to get barrage. For the super casuals, they're going to love it. It's a recurring theme. They're making the game easier.
It's dumb. It literally just if that